This is a video to go over how I converted the holiday sequences Joy to the World from LMS to xLights. The holiday sequences layouts in which you'll be converting are 4 arches that are 25 pixels each, 8 RGB mini trees, and then the roof layout, which is 3 horizontal lines and 4 vertical. There's also starbursts on left and right, and I use those for floods, but you can map any object you see to pretty much anything within xLights, depending on how you want to do it. So we'll get started. First thing you need to do is start a new sequence in xLights with the audio file set up, and then we're going to add in, first thing we'll cover is we're going to cover the RGB mini trees. So we'll add those in. Okay. And so once we add those in, we're going to go ahead and do the import. We're going to import effects. And you'll open up the LMS file that you get from holiday sequences. And we're going to create a mapping file. Now once you create this mapping file, you can save it and you can reuse it for all the holiday sequences that you import for the Christmas lights. Okay, so we're going to add our trees to the import. And I actually have 9 mini trees, but there's 8 in the sequence, so I'll only be using 8. So right here at the top level of the mini tree 1, we're going to select the mini tree that's in the list. And these come from the holiday sequences LMS file. You gotta find where it says mini trees, and you can see all the different elements that are in here, and each of these pixels are identified, and they're identified by channel, so they have RGB as well. We won't go to that level of detail, but we will be doing node conversions for the house lights and the arches. There you go, there's the mini trees. We're going to select 1 to 1, and node 2. Make sure we get consistent with where we place them. Now you can do this mapping with a text editor, and for more complex items we're going to use a text editor to do that, but for the simple items you can just select them right here. And 8. So once you have that mapped, you want to save that mapping so that you can repeat it. And we're going to save this as RGB mini trees. Click OK, and it imports all those effects. So that's a 1-for-1 mapping. We'll render. You can see that. I got the joy. So for those of you that have pixel mini trees, you can also import them at the same way. So we'll add in the pixel mini trees. First thing we'll do is remove these, make it easier. We'll add in the pixel mini trees and import them the same way. Select the LMS file. Add all the trees for the mapping. I added these pixel mini trees to the layout just to demonstrate this part of it. And it's the same process we did for the RGB mini trees. On the pixel mini trees, we're doing it at the top level of the tree itself. Same way as we did for the RGB, but you'll see all these other nodes here. That's the individual pixels for each strand. So when we skip down, we got to find tree number 2 and its top level node to map it there. And find 3. Oh, we already hit strand 2. So I'm going to be above strand 1 right here. before, right there, before strand 1. Now, if you get these out of order in the wrong place, you'll see weird things happen. You can just remove them from your sequence, add them back, and go edit your import and redo it. And 8. And then I'll show you what this one looks like. So you can see how the text file comes out. Text file is basically the same layout. See, it's basically the same layout. You can see the mini tree 1, mini tree 2. So editing through a text editor is actually easier for the more complex items. For the simple ones, it doesn't matter. But make sure you save your mapping so you can reuse it for another sequence. So render all. Once we render, you'll see the RGB mini trees in that folder. And you can see down here the number 8 didn't import. So I'm going to go try this again. And I probably just got number 8 in the wrong spot. So we'll load that mapping. And then find number 8. Oh, so when you select the mini trees, or you select an item here in the list, you've actually got to click out of the cell or it won't save. So mini tree 8. So once you do that, see how it has the arrow over here? You got to click into another cell or it won't save. So I'm going to save that mapping. And okay. And then we got number 8. So next we're going to do arches. We're going to go ahead and remove these just to make it simpler to create the files. And my arches actually show up as a single element. But also my arches are 50 pixels wide, and as I mentioned earlier, the holiday light sequences arches are 25 pixels wide. So I'm going to have to double up the pixels so that it will completely fill up the arch. So we'll go ahead and do the import. Okay. Select the LMS file. And we're going to add the model. Now, as I mentioned before, this one's much more complex because you're dealing with many nodes. So there's 200 of them in here. It's a little tedious to do it in this editor. What I recommend doing is finding the first arch and getting the name at the beginning for the arch. So you got arch 113P1. So we're going to find arch 2 right here, strand 2, node 1, and we're doing this at the node level. So we get through the 25 pixels in this one, and then there's the next one, arch 113P3. That's wrong. No, there it is. Arch 214P1. There we go. Look for P1s. Okay. Go to the next arch. Right here from node 1. And this one should be arch 314, I think. 315 P1. There we go. And the fourth one, arch 416, P1, there we go. Don't forget to click into another cell. We're going to save this mapping. Okay, so now we'll go into our text editor and we're going to take a look at editing these. So what you'll do is you'll take the P1 here and we're going to copy it and just cut and paste. I'm just going to take this first part here and just move down. Now, as I mentioned, I'm doubling them up because I've got 50 nodes to map onto, but only 25 pixels in the original arch. So every 2 pixels, or every node, or every pixel in the arch will map to 2 nodes in my arch. So just double them up. Oops. And that looks like the mapping file. And so when you're done, this is what it looks like. Now we'll load that mapping file here. You can see they're all mapped out. And each pixel is used on 2 nodes. And we're missing one at the end here, so we'll put it down here. And make sure to change cells. Save that again. And we'll click OK, and it will import the arches. So as I mentioned, the arches are at the node level, so you actually have to go down the nodes to see them. We'll render all. Okay, and this is what they look like. I got the joy. Okay. Next one we're going to import are the floodlights. And I have 4 floodlights. And since there's not floodlights in the original file, what I ended up doing was using part of the starburst. And so you can see what that one looks like. LMS file. And we're going to load the okay, and these are how those are mapped. So starburst 1, the inside one, the left one I put on P1, and the other one's on pixel 8. So click on that, render all, and you can see what this one looks like with the floodlights. And the last group we're going to do are the house lights. House eaves. We'll start with the eaves. So the layout for the house is you've got 3 different strands here. But on mine, I have many more pixels. So I have roughly twice as much going across the house. So what I ended up doing was starting off in the middle, find the middle spot, and having it work its way out, and then I mirrored it on the other side. So the way I did that was through a mapping file. So we'll go ahead and start that import. And I use a text editor to edit this one just because it's more complex. I'll load that. So I mapped out how the layouts were done. So across the top, you start with the right fascia from the right side, working your way left, and it's 68 pixels, and the mid fascia is 37, and the left fascia is 41. You can actually get that out of the LMS file itself if you wanted to look at the LMS file. But we'll take a look at what the mapping file looks like here. So what I did was I found the midpoint of the house, and you can see right here, I started with right fascia, P1, at the midpoint on the 2 strings, and then worked my way out both directions. So it counts up from P1 and works its way out that way. So you can just cut and paste and edit and change those numbers, and you can work it around until you like the way it looks. And that's how this one turns out. This one's also done at the node level because the objects aren't the same. So when you look at this one, it shows up at the node level. We'll render all. And this is how this looks. Alright, so next, and I did the same thing for the top. I started in the center, worked my way out, but I used a different element for the top part of the house. So that's further on down here. It's the last 2 strings. I used the post, the left post for that. And then when I went around and did the roof line, I did something similar. So I found the center point right here. Sorry. I started the center, so the center's right here, and I started it off at P24, which I think is the top of the posts, and worked my way out both directions so that it would have a symmetrical view just like the bottom of the house, but the timing of it's different. So we can now load that one, so let's add those elements. Import the effects for those. LMS file. And we're going to load that mapping. So to create the initial file, same way, just add the items to the list, save it out to a text file, and then you can edit it. And then import that. So now if you look at the video on the way it plays, you see how it goes across the roof and moves down the post. So mine's moving from the center out, and at different timing, but it's also moving from the center roof out on top, depending on which part of the song. Okay, so render. Okay, we can see what the whole roof looks like now. Sequence, but I had the peak showing up at different sequences. Same part of or same elements, but a different one. And you can mix and match depending on how your roof's laid out or how your lights are laid out. So now putting it all together, we're going to add back in, do these mini trees. We'll add in the pixel mini trees. The arches and the floods. Now we'll go back, and since we saved those import files, we can go back and re-import them. So load mapping for the arches. Map those. Keep in mind that you can reuse these import files for any of the holiday sequences, Christmas LMS files. Load the mapping for the Pixel mini trees. Okay, so we'll map the pixel trees. We'll import the RGB trees. Okay. Anything to import for that? What are we missing? Floods? Once we have it all together, this is what it looks like. I got the joy. I added them just for And that's it. If you're feeling particularly ambitious, you can combine those conversion files into a single import. Just be aware that at the top it has a count of how many elements, and then it lists them all out before it goes into each one. But you can merge all these text files. That's it. Good luck.